Ethan Moore was a man who believed that success was everything. He worked hard for years, building his small company into something people in the city began to notice. He liked being known as the man who had done it all on his own. He wore fine suits, drove an expensive car, and smiled whenever people praised his sharp mind. To many, Ethan was a symbol of achievement, yet deep inside, there was a restlessness he did not understand. Something about his life always felt incomplete, though he never admitted it. When Ethan first met Lily Brooks, she was nothing like the women he dated. She was quiet and gentle, with soft eyes that always seemed to see more than she spoke. She worked as an art restorer in a small museum. Her hands were often covered in paint from the delicate work she did. She did not wear fancy clothes or heavy makeup, and her small apartment was filled with old books and art supplies. But there was peace in her world, and that peace drew Ethan in. To his surprise, he started visiting her after office hours, finding comfort in her calm voice and her kindness. At first, their love was simple. They would walk together in the park after work, laughing about little things. Lily never cared about his money, and Ethan liked that she treated him like an ordinary man, not a businessman to impress. When he proposed to her, it was not with a grand plan or a public show. It was on a quiet evening inside her apartment, with the stars visible through the window. She said yes, smiling softly, and that night felt like a promise of a peaceful life. But peace does not last easily when pride begins to grow. After their wedding, Ethan's business began to rise quickly. Large companies started offering him deals. He hired more people, expanded his office, and started attending high society gatherings. At those events, he began to notice how others looked at Lily. They did not speak openly, but he saw the glances. Some smiled politely. Others frowned slightly, as if wondering why a rich businessman had married a woman with no background or name. At first, Ethan ignored it. He told himself that love mattered more than appearance. Yet slowly, those silent judgments began to dig into him. Lily, on her part, never changed. She still preferred quiet evenings over parties. She would rather cook dinner at home than eat in luxury restaurants. She liked secondhand bookstores more than designer shops. Ethan tried to get her to attend his business events, but she often felt out of place. The women there discussed brands, vacations, and people with titles she had never heard of. She smiled politely, but her shyness made her fade into the background. Ethan began to feel embarrassed without knowing why. As months passed, he started spending less time at home. Work became his excuse. He told Lily he had late meetings and long trips. In truth, he was avoiding the feeling of discomfort that her quiet presence now brought him. His pride whispered that he needed a wife who matched his growing status, someone who fit into the glittering world he was trying to enter. Lily noticed the change, but did not complain. She believed love needed patience. She thought Ethan was only tired or stressed. Every evening, she still waited for him with dinner ready and hope in her heart. One evening, Ethan came home past midnight. Lily was asleep on the couch with a book still open beside her. The room was warm with the smell of freshly baked bread. For a moment, he stopped and looked at her. In that short moment, he remembered the days when he could not wait to see her, when her smile could calm even the hardest day. But he quickly turned away, told himself that he had no time for such feelings, that his life was moving forward, and he could not stay trapped in a small apartment filled with paint and quiet dreams. The next morning, he left early, leaving a short note saying he had an urgent meeting. He did not kiss her goodbye. As he walked out, he did not notice the small golden thread of light that seemed to follow him in the air, thin and faint, as if connecting his heart to the sleeping woman behind him. He could not see it yet, but it was there, stretching silently between them, waiting for the day when he might finally understand what true worth looked like. Ethan began attending more parties than ever before. The nights were long, the music loud, and the rooms glittered with people who spoke of money and power as if nothing else mattered. He wore his best suits, smiled for every camera, and laughed at jokes that were not funny. It all looked perfect, but inside, he felt strangely empty. Yet he would not admit that to himself. He told everyone he was living his dream. At one of those parties, he met Vanessa Pierce. She was elegant and confident, the kind of woman who seemed born to be noticed. Her red hair shone under the lights, and her smile was the kind that made people turn their heads. When she spoke, her voice carried both charm and control. Ethan felt drawn to her from the first moment. She asked about his business and seemed truly interested in everything he said. No one had listened to him like that in years. Soon he found himself meeting her again at other events, always finding a reason to stand beside her a little longer. Vanessa liked to talk about the world of success. She told Ethan about powerful people she knew, about cities she visited, about plans that involved influence and luxury. She called him a man of vision and said he deserved someone who could match his place. It was praise Ethan had longed to hear. It filled the space that doubt had left in him. Each word made him believe that maybe Lily was not right for him after all. He began comparing the two women. Vanessa dazzled people with confidence, while Lily faded quietly in the background. The choice began to seem clear to him, even though his heart felt a small tug every time he thought of Lily waiting at home. Lily noticed Ethan's new circle of friends, came home smelling of perfume she did not wear, started using expensive colognes and bought a new wardrobe. He said it was for business, but his words came with less warmth. She asked softly if something was wrong, but he laughed and said everything was fine. She smiled and stayed silent. In her heart, she prayed that the man she loved would return to her. She had no idea that he had already started building another world without her. As weeks passed, Ethan and Vanessa began spending more time together in private. They had dinners in quiet restaurants where no one knew them. Vanessa would hold his hand across the table and tell him how much he deserved better than a simple life. She called his marriage a mistake. She said a man like him should not have to explain himself to a woman who had nothing to offer. Ethan tried to argue at first, saying Lily was kind and good, but Vanessa's words kept sinking deeper into him. Slowly he began agreeing. He started thinking that love was not about kindness, but about how much someone could help him move forward. Lily could feel their distance growing even more. Ethan began sleeping at his office, claiming there were projects he needed to finish. When he came home, he was distracted and cold. She kept writing him notes telling him to eat properly and rest well, but he rarely even looked at them. Sometimes she waited by the window late into the night, watching the streetlights, hoping to see his car turn the corner. When he did arrive, his eyes did not meet hers like they once did. He spoke less and less, and his smile looked practiced. One day, Ethan met Vanessa for lunch, and she spoke directly about their future. She said that if he wanted to rise higher in business and society, he needed a partner who represented success. She laughed softly and said that loyalty had no meaning without ambition. Ethan listened without speaking. Something inside him was uneasy, but he ignored it. He thought of how tired he felt every time he went home to Lily. He blamed her quietness, her small dinners, her simple ways. That evening, he made the first call to a lawyer about divorce. His hands shook slightly as he spoke, but his voice stayed firm. The lawyer said it could be arranged easily. That night, Lily waited again with the table set. She had even painted a small picture for him, a view of their old park where they used to walk hand in hand. The food turned cold as hours passed. When Ethan came home, he barely noticed the painting or the meal. He only told her he would be traveling more often from now on. Went to sleep quickly and turned away from her. Lily sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the moonlight shining through the window. She whispered a small prayer to the night, asking for strength to understand the man she loved. In another part of the city, Vanessa smiled to herself, sure that she had him completely. What none of them could see was that a thin golden thread still connected Ethan to Lily, growing weaker but not broken. It was waiting in silence, carrying every unspoken word between their hearts, ready for the day when truth would come to light. Ethan sat in his large office overlooking the city, yet the view no longer brought him joy. He had once dreamed of this life, a world full of meetings, money, and people who praised him. Now every success felt heavy. Vanessa called him often, asking when the divorce would be complete. She said she wanted to make their future official. Each time he heard her voice, Ethan felt a mix of pride and fear. The lawyer had already prepared the papers. All he had to do was sign them. At night, sleep no longer came easily. When he did sleep, strange dreams followed. He saw a thread made of gold floating before his eyes, connected him to someone far away. When he reached out, warmth filled his chest. Then the vision would fade, and he would wake sweating, his heart beating fast. He tried to ignore it, telling himself it was only stress from work. Still, the dreams returned again and again. Each time the golden thread appeared, he felt a pull toward someone gentle and familiar. He never said anything about the dreams to anyone. Lily spent her days quietly, restoring old paintings at the museum. Her face looked calm, but her eyes showed sadness. People at work noticed her silence, yet she kept her pain private. At home, she still cooked dinners for two and set the table carefully, even though most nights she ate alone. She kept a photo of Ethan smiling from their early years near her bedside. To her, the man in that photo still existed somewhere beneath his cold new persona. She believed love could heal what pride had broken, though she did not know how long she could keep waiting. One evening, Ethan came home unexpectedly early. Lily was surprised but happy. She welcomed him with a small meal, his favorite pasta that she had not made in months. He sat down without expression. The smell of food filled the air, and for a moment the scene looked like their old days. She tried to talk about simple things, the museum, a new painting restoration project, the cat that sometimes visited their window. Ethan listened with half his mind. His heart something stirred, a faint warmth he did not expect. He looked at her face, gentle in the lamplight, and almost said he was sorry. But then pride returned and closed his mouth. After dinner, Lily asked softly if he was happy. He said he was just busy. She walked toward him and held his hand. He froze for a second but did not pull away. For a brief moment both stood in silence. That golden thread between them glowed bright and unseen. But Ethan quickly found an excuse to leave, saying he needed to work late. As he walked out, Lily whispered, not loud enough for him to hear, that she would always love him no matter how far he went. In the following days, Ethan grew more distracted. Vanessa noticed and became impatient. She complained that his attention was slipping and blamed Lily for it. She told him he should close that chapter once and for all. Ethan nodded and promised he would sign the papers soon. He even picked up the pen one night in his office. But his hand refused to move. The golden thread pulled at him again, filling his mind with the image of Lily's soft eyes. Tears rose in his eyes, surprising him, but he wiped them away quickly. He did not remember the last time he had cried. The next morning he called his lawyer to delay the process. He said he needed time to settle financial matters. Vanessa became angrier and demanded he choose between them. Ethan said nothing. That night, his dreams returned stronger. He saw Lily standing at a distance, surrounded by light. The thread between them shone brighter than before, connecting their hearts. She looked sad but calm. He heard her voice inside his chest saying that forgiveness was still possible. When he awoke, he felt both comfort and guilt. He began noticing things he had ignored before. In meetings, the praise from wealthy clients felt empty. At parties, Vanessa's laughter sounded forced. He realized he missed kindness, warmth, and trust, the things Lily gave freely. One day, while walking home, he passed by a small art shop. Through the window, he saw paintings like the ones Lily restored. Without planning to, he went inside. The smell of paint and varnish brought back memories. He asked the shop owner about an old painting that reminded him of Lily's work. The owner smiled and said it had been restored by a woman named Lily Brooks. Hearing her name hit him like a wave. He bought the painting and took it home. That night, he hung the painting in his living room. Every time he looked at it, he felt both pain and peace. The golden thread in his dreams seemed to grow stronger, as if reminding him that no amount of success could replace the love he was throwing away. Ethan knew he had made a mistake, but he did not yet know how to undo it. Somewhere deep in his soul, the golden thread shimmered softly, holding on to hope he did not yet have the courage to face. Ethan woke early that morning with a strange feeling in his chest. He had finally decided to tell his lawyer to complete the divorce. He told himself that it was time to move forward. Vanessa had been waiting, and his pride said it was the only right decision. Yet as he dressed for work, everything around him felt different. The sunlight through the window looked dull. The sound of the city outside seemed far away. He shook his head and tried to ignore the feeling, but deep down something was not right. When he reached the office, his lawyer was waiting with serious eyes. He had papers spread across the desk and looked uneasy. Ethan asked what was wrong, but the lawyer hesitated. He said there had been a problem during the background check. Ethan frowned, wondering what problem there could be. Lily had no debts, no criminal record, and no connection to anything scandalous. The lawyer cleared his throat and handed Ethan an envelope, said it came from a national embassy in Europe, and should be read privately. Ethan opened it with calm hands, but his heart began to race as he read. The letter said that Lily Brooks was not her real name. Her complete title was Lady Lillian of Arundel, daughter of the late King Richard and rightful heir to the throne of a small but wealthy European kingdom. She had left her home many years ago to live quietly in America. Few people knew her identity because she had chosen a life of peace away from duty. The embassy was requesting a formal meeting to confirm details, as her name would soon appear again in international records. Ethan lowered the letter, his face pale and eyes wide. He read the words again, unable to believe them. His wife, the woman he thought was simple and poor, was royalty. He remembered her quiet grace, her calm nature, the way she never cared for fame or wealth. Everything began to make sense. Her polished manners, her gentle confidence, even her mysterious way of speaking when people asked about her family. He felt foolish that he had never looked deeper. She had never needed his wealth, because she had already come from greater riches. The shame burned him from inside. Ethan called the lawyer again, his voice trembling. He asked if this was certain. The lawyer nodded and said the embassy had provided proof. Ethan sat in silence, staring at the papers that told him how blind his pride had made him. He thought about all the times he had ignored her, the cruel words he almost said, and the love he had pushed away for status. He realized he had not lost a simple woman. He had betrayed a queen in spirit and blood. That evening, Vanessa came to visit him at home. She saw the letter on the table and tried to read it, but Ethan took it away sharply. She asked what was wrong, and he told her the truth. Vanessa's face changed quickly from surprise to anger. She said it made no difference, that Lily's title meant nothing to her. But Ethan knew it meant everything. It showed who Lily truly was. Vanessa tried to turn his thoughts again, saying that Lily had hidden her identity and could never be trusted. Yet Ethan saw the truth clearly at last. Lily had hidden nothing out of deceit. She wanted love for who she was, not for where she came from. His chest ached with regret. He told Vanessa to leave and said he needed to think. She shouted in anger, saying he would regret losing her, then slammed the door as she left. Ethan sat alone for hours. He stared at the photograph of him and Lily from years before. He remembered her laughter when times were simple. He saw her eyes that always looked at him with kindness, even when he was cold. Now he understood what true grace was. It was not seen in parties or money earned. It was seen in her patience, in her silence, in the way she never returned anger with anger. He whispered her name, hoping somehow she could hear him. The next morning, he made plans to find her. He called every place where he might reach her, and finally learned that she was attending a charity art gala that night. The event supported orphanages and hospitals, something Lily had always cared about. Ethan dressed simply for once, leaving behind his tailored suit. He wanted her to see him not as the businessman he had become, but as the man she once loved. As he walked into the grand hall, he spotted her almost at once. She was standing near a painting, wearing an elegant white dress that glowed softly beneath the lights. People bowed slightly as they spoke to her. Even in that crowd, she carried an aura of quiet strength. When she saw Ethan across the room, her expression did not change. She stayed calm, but her eyes told a story. Ethan moved closer, his steps slow and uncertain. He stopped before her and whispered a small greeting. For a long moment, neither spoke. The air between them felt heavy with everything left unsaid. Ethan took a breath and began to speak. His voice cracked as he told her he now knew the truth. He said he was sorry for his blindness, sorry for his pride, sorry for not valuing her heart. Her eyes softened, but remained guarded. She said that truth always finds a way to come to light, and she turned away slightly, leaving him with both hope and pain rising together inside him. Ethan stood in the hall, surrounded by people dressed in fine clothes, yet he felt completely alone. The noise of laughter and music faded in his mind as his eyes stayed fixed on Lily. She looked calm but distant. Everything about her presence reminded him of what he had lost. He wanted to say 1,000 things, but his throat felt dry. When she turned to leave, he followed her quietly. Outside the hall, under the night sky filled with stars, she stopped and faced him. The cool wind carried the sound of the city, but it was the silence between them that spoke the loudest. He took a slow step forward and said her name. His voice shook because he was afraid she would tell him to leave, yet she waited. He told her how sorry he was for every unkind word, for every time he ignored her, for letting pride win over love. He said he had been blind and foolish. He told her he had learned that wealth and power meant nothing without peace and heart. Lily listened without interrupting. Her eyes glistened, but her face stayed calm. When he finally stopped speaking, she said softly that forgiveness did not erase the pain, but could open a door to healing. Her words cut deep, but also brought a strange peace. Ethan told her he would not ask for immediate forgiveness. He said he only wanted a chance to make things right, even if it took years. Lily looked at him for a long time, and she said that love can survive only when built on truth. She said she had once believed he loved her for who she was, and not for what she had, and that she needed to see if that love could return in honesty again. Ethan nodded slowly and said he would wait as long as it took. As she turned to leave, he felt the faint pull of that unseen golden thread between them, stronger than ever before. In the days that followed, Ethan began to change everything about his life. He cut off his ties with Vanessa completely. He sold the expensive car that once symbolized his rise and used the money to support charity programs that Lily had been part of. People in his business world were surprised. Some thought he had lost his mind, but Ethan no longer cared about their opinions. He began to visit Lily's charity events quietly, not as a man seeking attention, but as a volunteer who wanted to do something real. Lily noticed his presence but kept her distance, only greeting him politely. Weeks turned to months, and Ethan kept his promise. He worked with children at community centers, painted walls at orphanages, and carried food boxes with his own hands. The world that once cared only about fame and money now felt small to him. He found joy in kindness, something Lily had lived by all along. When people asked why he was doing these things, he said he was learning how to live again. Every act of kindness reminded him of the love he had lost and the man he wanted to become. Lily watched his efforts quietly. She could see that the change in him was not fake. When they met at events, she spoke to him a little more each time, began to share short conversations about life, art, and the past. He never tried to rush anything. One day, she invited him to visit a small art school that taught poor children. As they walked together through the hall filled with laughter and colors, he saw the gentle smile returning to her face. The warmth between them began to grow again, slow but steady. One evening, after everyone left the art school, they stood together under the golden light of sunset. Ethan told her that the golden thread that had always connected them in his dreams was still there, and he now understood it was the thread of true love and soul. Lily's eyes softened, and for the first time in a long while, she smiled without sadness. She said that love founded on pride dies, but love, born again through humility, can live forever. Ethan reached out his hand, and she placed hers in his. At that moment, both of them felt the golden thread strengthen, tying their hearts together again, not by title or wealth, but by truth and hope. Years later, Ethan and Lily continued their lives together, not as a businessman and a hidden princess, but as two people who had learned what love truly meant. He often told her that she had saved his heart twice: once, by loving him when he did not deserve it, and again by forgiving him when he had lost his way. She would laugh softly and say that true love always finds its way home. The soul string between them never faded, shining quietly through every trial, proving that when love is real, no distance or pride can ever break it.